Welcome to the Real for Real Story Picnic with Rebecca Burgess of Fibershed, author and founder of Fibershed, building regional soil-to-soil fiber system with the use of local fiber, natural dye, and local labor.
In my early days, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my grandfather, they were all part of my upbringing. And Marin, again, in the 1890s, when my family first arrived, it was very working class. I mean, we really did. They lived out of tent cabins, and my great-grandfather actually, he brought roasted coffee around on a horse cart in San Francisco. So if you take like this more ancestral tenure to the land that my mother brought through, plus this counterculture revolutionary that my father brought through, then you get me. So it's, I'm very interested in how I bring those together now. And I remember being at an airport where I had been asked to just come back I was coming back from, I think, the Hopi and Navajo reservation. I was studying their natural dye traditions. And I'm sitting in the airport and I'm watching CNN and I'm watching troops being deployed to Afghanistan, and I'm watching another experience where we're putting people's lives on the line for oil. And I'm supposed to be writing this book on natural dyes and bioregionalism. And all of a sudden the neurological network started to kind of come together. It was like, oh, the fossil fuel culture is part of everything you are wearing, everything you're sitting on, everything that is upholstered here. This plastic chair is made out of this fossil fuel derived substance. Fossil carbon is in everything that you are completely reliant upon here. I was wearing a polar fleece jacket made out of fossil carbon. I was wearing clothes that had acrylic yarns running through them from my stretchy corduroy pants, fossil carbon. So I'm watching the troops go, and I'm looking at myself as responsible and culpable for the reality at which I'm watching. And it just took this moment of like, I'm writing a book on natural dyes. I'm not wearing natural dyes. I'm writing a book on bioregionalism, and there's nothing about me that is bioregional. So I started to just have this feeling of like, if I'm gonna take myself seriously, I have to start walking my talk. And so I made this commitment that I'd make an effort to take the landscape I'd grown up in and start mapping it for fiber and dye and material resources. And I would create a wardrobe where all the fiber, all the labor, and all the dye was sourced from within this 150-mile radius of my front door. And I would call it a fiber shed. And literally it all landed really in the airport. So it was about just taking ownership the best way I could. So my bathing suit, my underwear, my socks for 1 year were all pretty much sourced from raw materials. Well, 100% of it was sourced from raw materials. And it was all hand spun, hand knit, washed. I had very little underwear, just so you know. It was like a very underwearless year because that was really hard to wear some of that stuff right next to your skin. But what I found in that is I found so many people's stories in this regional attempt to dress myself. When you don't become intimate with that which you're consuming, I call it the chasm of exploitation. It's a space where I have seen, if I don't know who was responsible for making these clothing items, or if I don't know who made that food, it's very easy for me to make superficial decisions about my consumption. And so this food system, this land that is growing what we're eating, it is also growing cotton, and that cotton seed is feeding all of our dairy cows. We're throwing away millions of pounds of wool in California because those sheep are being raised for meat, for lamb consumption, but we're not using any other part of the animal. We're growing 200 million pounds of cotton in California, yet we're not wearing it in this state. Californians don't wear the cotton we grow. We don't wear the wool that's growing off the backs of the sheep in our home communities. This global, commodified movement of goods and services has enabled this chasm of exploitation to take place. The movement of our time is to create social equity in regional economies and to understand the price that these things are really costing. What is the true cost of this stuff that we are consuming at such a rapid rate? And to slow down and to create stories and narratives and transparency around that which we're consuming, and to build systems that have parity and equity at their center. To me, the analogous qualities between the food and fiber system, and I just would hope that as we move forward, we can start to narrate more from this space of like, the carbohydrates and proteins you eat, they come from the same land as the carbohydrates and proteins that you're wearing. Your refrigerator and your closet are both tied to the same landscapes. So thanks for the opportunity.